Welcome to another podcast. I'm here today with someone from the UK. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Chris Moore. I'm here in the UK, in the Midlands. I am a head teacher of a tutoring company called One-to-One Tutoring and the managing director of a neurodivergent training company called Bright Future.
The reason I'm asking someone from the UK to be on our podcast is because the UK is further along in talking about neurodivergent conditions. In the US, we're still talking about the individual conditions and saying they have co-occurring this, co-occurring that. But we haven't gotten to that umbrella term as often. It seems the UK is further along with national awareness and legislation, where in the US we might have some good pockets of inclusive education or inclusive companies, but it's not on the national level.
We're not there yet. Our government has looked at neurodivergent training in schools. Everyone who works in education, anyone who works with children needs more information. We're still very much labelling children with individual diagnoses, so individually ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, autism, etc. We're not currently along the lines of that spiky profile, which I've spoken about quite regularly yet. Hopefully, we might start changing that. In the UK, it's much more challenging to get the diagnosis. For example, for an autism diagnosis, we're talking 60 months plus. A child who might be 10 looking for a diagnosis doesn't get a diagnosis until they're 14. It's too late by that point. Something needs to change here for certain.
I've read that you have written, I wouldn't change my children for the world, and you have neurodivergent children, but the world must change for them. How did that conviction lead you to start Bright Future Training? And what does that mission look like in practice today?
Obviously, from a personal motivation, I am dyslexic myself. I wasn't diagnosed till I was nearly 18. I was told I was dyslexic, and that was the only information I got. I had no support to understand what it meant. I'm bright, I'm articulate, but I was always labelled lazy because I never got down on paper what I could articulate and speak. I never performed well in exams. I remember dreading having to read out loud and counting people in front of me to work out what paragraph I was going to read, and then rehearsing that paragraph so that I wouldn't stumble over it. And finding out I had to read a different paragraph, stumbling over it and being laughed at, and then being told off by the teacher. And I really struggled with education, certainly at senior school. At nearly 18, I was at a college, I got a diagnosis, but no one ever said, this is how you use it. Went to university, got a degree. I had access arrangements there, but no one ever taught me how to use that. I just stumbled through my degree and went into the world of work.
This knowledge was available, but no one was providing it to you?
No one really said anything. I'm dyslexic means I find English hard. That's all I knew. It wasn't until maybe the last 3 or 4 years when I was nearly 40. I was like, oh, that's what it means then. When my oldest started school, he was 4. He was doing some work at home with us, and I'd noticed he was really struggling over his reading. I thought, he's dyslexic. And went to speak to the teacher, and no, he'll catch up, he'll be fine. When he was 5, went back to school. I said, I think he's dyslexic. I got told, no, he's not. He's fine. We'll catch him up. He's still struggling, but he made loads of progress. He has, but I've been doing loads at home with him. I think he's dyslexic. No, he's fine. This is 4 years into the process.
Wait a minute. Let me understand. Why would the school be reluctant to say that he's dyslexic? What I've understood is that in the US, it costs school systems more when they find out a child needs extra help. They don't want to find children that have problems, but I didn't hear that was true about England. So why would they be reluctant to agree with you?
Because he was so articulate, he's very intelligent. It's dyslexia where he doesn't present it in a way which they expect. You expect a dyslexic child is not articulate, they're not able to write properly, they can't do this, can't do that. They were reluctant to see that. Schools here haven't got the necessary training. I've had no training in dyslexia in 15 years of teaching. I've had maybe 2 hours worth of ADHD training and maybe 2 to 3 hours worth of autism training, and that is it in my career.
We all agree that teachers need training in the neurodivergent condition, a universal
massively.
Problem.
My son, who's got ADHD, the school didn't see it. Though I've got ADHD, it was the complete opposite. He would come home and have explosions. He spent the whole day keeping everything in. I had to seek a private diagnosis for him. The school wouldn't support that. I went down that route and they were like, oh, we see it. I was really frustrated. My youngest just started school. He's 4. He's sensory seeking, very attention seeking, very impulsive. The setting he was at previously constantly labelled him as a bad boy. He was told by his teacher, if you're not a good boy, you can't come to school. He's already labelling himself as a bad boy. We've moved settings for him. More schools should be like the one he's now in rather than the school he was at previously.
Oh, the environment makes so much difference.
It's massive.
Yeah.
Obviously, I run an education centre and we work with children, and 3/4 of our children are neurodivergent, diagnosed or not. You can see them excelling. They feel safe in our environment because they know they are included. We see them as individuals. We have certain approaches. For example, we don't allow hands up. We do a thumbs up approach. Children communicate with us silently without having to communicate verbally. You're finding it a bit hard. How can I help you? Simple measures like that in an environment make a huge difference.
And businesses do the changes that would make the workplace much easier for people. They're not costly. It's just getting trained that these interventions would make a big difference. And actually, they help everyone.
I was in the class for 15 years. I made loads of mistakes, not because I didn't care about these kids. I didn't know. It wasn't until seeing my own children and the challenges they were having and then deciding to start doing research. There's a different way, a better way. My practice evolved and the children within my environments felt much safer. Children who knew I was a safe person to talk to. I was very black and white with my expectations. There was no grey areas.
From your personal knowledge and study, you instituted ideas of how to incorporate these children, and it's working.
Give an example. I had a child in my class who could not sit still, had to be constantly moving. I used to allow him to get up and move around my classroom while I was teaching, as long as he was listening. He'd be walking around and I'd question him. He'd stop and he'd answer my question. I knew he was listening. I was being observed by 25 other teachers. I said, he needs to move. I know he's listening. That for me is a minor change in my teaching practice, which meant he could access that curriculum and he excelled.
The focus becomes on what works.
Yes,
Then
100%. Yeah.
who are your clients for Bright Future training?
Bright Future was formed about 12 months ago. We've actually just launched our first training package, which is available online. It's 6 hours worth of training, geared towards anyone who works in education. It could be teachers, TAs, head teachers, lunchtime supervisors, anyone who works with children.
People in the US would benefit from seeing your trainings.
Yes, would benefit. We are actually looking at maybe tweaking it slightly for the US. So really exciting. Bright Future is not about a business, it's about making change. We are collaborating with organisations and people to spread the word about it, about neurodiversity and how we can make these changes in the classrooms. We're very much in infancy at the moment, but really exciting where we're going to. The next 5 years, it will be a different picture, hopefully, and it'll be national.
Now maybe we can move into some of the particular problems we see in the children that you have worked out ways to help. You wrote a story about a child named Jake. He was masking anxiety in school and sensory overload. The teachers looked at his behavior as defiant, not recognizing the anxiety, the sensory overload. How do you help a teacher to reframe what they're seeing in children?
First of all, you look at an environment in a school. You need to look at why that child is defiant, why he's angry, why he's not following instructions. Try and get to the bottom of that. For a lot of children, they are not acts of defiance, they're acts of unmet needs, aren't they? There's something going on. You look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you're not meeting those safety needs, if they don't feel safe, they're not going to do anything else. What's the underlying factors? It's speaking to that child, making sure that they are understood, making sure that if there's something going on, that they're able to vocalise it. If they can't, trying to unpick it as well. You've got the concept of neuroreception, the body's ability to detect safety or threat. What's going on? How can we best support that child? It's sometimes quite difficult, isn't it? If a child is constantly not listening.
There's someone in the US that's famous for saying that all children want to do well. If you start with that premise that they want to do well, that would help you to think, let's get to the bottom of why they're not doing well.
It's getting to the bottom of the iceberg. What's going on below? Where are these unmet needs? Is there psychological effects? Is there anxiety coming from home? Is there something unmet in the classroom? A child who maybe struggles with reading, who may be autistic, doesn't want to admit they can't do it. The easiest route for them is to defy and refuse. They don't want to be wrong. Rather than saying, I can't do it, it's no, you can, but let me help you.
Yes.
When I was at school, I found reading really challenging. I used to get upset. I used to get angry. I used to cry about it. I did that all the time.
Do you know that Dr. Hallowell, the well-known psychiatrist in America, is also dyslexic? He tells a famous story about when he was in school, reading was scary for him, but his first grade teacher sat with him and put her arm around his shoulder. He remembered her acceptance of him and his challenges, that he still talks about it as an adult.
It's okay to find things challenging. I speak about it all the time when I'm working with children. These are things I found hard. I don't find it hard now. I've had to work really hard at it. So it's all those things for them to go, oh, okay. For them to go, that's okay.
You can read well now?
I have reprogrammed my brain. When anyone sends me an email, if it's a long email, I print it off, highlight the key facts and then write bullet points. I can't take it all in one go. I've had to reprogram it to allow me to do those things. When I was 17, when I first got diagnosed, my IQ for reading was about 83. I had a dyslexia test recently. My reading's now gone to 135. It's a case of rebuilding those neuro connections to allow me to process it.
We think in the ADHD world that if you get diagnosed sooner, when your brain is more neuroplastic, you can learn those new behaviors more easily. Do you think a dyslexic getting diagnosed earlier, because you went through training yourself, but
Yeah.
was it harder because you were older?
If you look at starting earlier on, Dr. Tim Conway talks about the progress some of his children made over a 10-week period. They go from being within the fifth percentile to the 50th percentile literally overnight. So 100%, if you start young enough, that's why looking for early diagnosis and early screening is so important.
Another problem that we encounter is the girls that are masking and they're trying to fit in. Do you have any ideas for how educators can notice that before they're burning themselves out? I wonder, boys mask as well.
Obviously, boys less mask than girls, usually. My son, whether it be a girl or a boy, it's a case of understanding, looking out for those subtle signs. It's looking for the girls who have that perfectionism. It's looking for the girls who are overly quiet, who stare out the window. Those children you want to be looking at spotting and looking for those underlying behaviours. There's a study in 2022 that revealed 80% of autistic girls remain undiagnosed until the age of 18 due to their ability to mask.
Can you say that again?
A study in 2022 revealed that 80% of autistic girls remain undiagnosed until the age of 18, primarily due to their ability to mask.
Yeah.
Girls with ADHD present less overt symptoms compared to boys.
When people say it makes them harder to diagnose because they're masking, that's true, but we need to understand what masking looks like.
The perfectionism, isn't it? It's the quietness, it's the staring out the window. It's all those things. Also, speaking to parents, a lot of girls who come home after being perfect role model at school, come home and explode. It's having those conversations with parents about what might be going on. I've had conversations with parents who, this child is literally, she's like golden child. She never puts her foot wrong, does all her homework. And then she's at home, she's explosive, she's angry, she's shouting, she's screaming.
Yeah.
It's not the child we see at school. So it's having those conversations with parents as well, because often at school, you may not see it. Girls try and stick to societal expectations.
So the school might not see it, but it's the contrast between the two environments that can be a clue.
Yes, massively. It's speaking to parents and finding out what's going on at home. It's a safe space for them where they won't get judged. That's where you see more of the natural behaviours without the mask.
The parents might be the one that starts this issue because they're wondering why the school's saying she's perfect and we're not seeing that at home. That could be a clue for the parents that let's start looking into this.
That goes back to, for the teacher to understand, if they're showing this at home, it might be something that we need to investigate. Do you want them to be successful? But that leads to burnout, anxiety, depression, which shouldn't be the case if they're given the right support.
You've also written about the unique contradictions that come with someone who has the combination of autism. I've even talked to adults who say they feel in conflict with themselves because sometimes they want that structure and routine, and other times they want that novelty. So how do schools help children that have that dual drive?
You look at it as being like a game of tug of war between your mind. One side wants that structure, whereas another side wants that flexibility. And one wants to be impulsive, one wants routine. You look at that child's spiky profile, don't you? Every child with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, or whatever that co-occurring need might be, it's going to be completely different. But looking at that child as an individual and saying, what is it you need? You've got very high verbal skills, but you've got poor working memory. You've got advanced problem-solving skills, but challenges with social interactions. Where is it within their profile that they need additional support? Let's put that support in place.
I've heard the same thing. People have executive function deficits. It's not across the board. Some people have more problems with time blindness or organization. It's pinpointing exactly where the areas are that you need to pay more attention to.
I'm ADHD. I can see my son's traits in myself. I don't need medication. I'm very well focused. I'm very organized. I have checklists for everything. I'm a multitasker. Some of the challenges that I've got, obviously ADHD, it's understanding that spiky profile and where those challenges might be, looking at that profile and where those challenges the young person has, and give them support in those particular focused areas. No one with ADHD is the same. No one with autism is the same. You've got to address each child individually.
It seems like having labels is a problem because we think, oh, you got this label, you fit in this box, but the label's really just a starting point, and it goes to being so individual after that.
I'm neurodivergent. What does that mean? I have challenges with reading and writing. I have challenges with executive function. I have challenges with social interactions. This is the challenge that I have. No person is only ADHD. They rarely ever come along. Sometimes they may not get that dyscalculia diagnosis or dyslexia diagnosis. People don't know. It's understanding these are my challenges and this is where I need help.
One woman told me that her son got diagnosed with ADHD, but it wasn't until he got neuropsych testing that she really understood where his challenges were. Demonstrates what you're talking about. You end up having strengths in some areas and weaknesses in others, and your profile is different than someone else's.
Focus on those strengths and build those strengths. Then look what can you do with the weaknesses and grow those weaknesses to become a strength.
I think we're talking about children being put on pressure to perform in areas where they're not capable. You talked about you were bullied for your dyslexic behavior. In America, we focus a lot on bullying, but it seems like it goes with childhood a lot.
I was bullied not just for being dyslexic. I was bullied because I was clearly neurodivergent. I was quite small and I wasn't very strong when I was little. I was picked on quite a lot. If we look at Finland, they have from 7 to 16, at least an hour each week on empathy. They've got the lowest bullying rates in the world. They've got the highest rates of empathy in the world. They teach their children from a young age to understand how to be empathetic. I think it's having that real clear kind of empathy training for children to understand and recognize people's differences and celebrate those rather than look at them for being a target. I've had no training on how to intervene with bullying. Never as a teacher was I trained on how to resolve these issues. If children are taught how to deal with bullying and to be more empathetic, that would be a huge benefit. Finland, they involve the whole community to help protect the children from bullying and to learn how to be empathetic members of the community.
It has to become a cultural value. We value people who are kind, considerate, and empathetic. I think it comes from the top down in a country.
As adults, we value people who are kind, considerate, empathetic, whereas children like to be the top dog. They like to be the class clown and they like to make themselves look better. Those children who are doing the bullying are probably neurodivergent themselves and probably got issues themselves at home.
There's a lot for a teacher to learn. How do we get them started? What do you think the most important thing is for teachers?
All the training in the UK is standalone ADHD, autism, dyslexia. There's no training which actually looks at neurodiversity. These are the subtle signs with dyslexia or ADHD. These are the masking signs you might want to look out for. You can't expect a teacher to have a depth of knowledge because they've got 30 children or so in their class with 30 different needs. It's a case of just having that basic understanding of how I can understand a child better to give that child a better level of support.
But there was someone in the UK I talked to, I thought he had a good idea. He said the teacher didn't have to know which particular child had which particular problem, but if she looked at her class as a bell curve, she could notice the children that were on the tail ends of that bell curve. Those are the ones that she should bring to someone's attention.
We spoke earlier about having the early screening. It's looking for those children who have got a small challenge. As a teacher, you've got to establish connections. You're not there to be their friend. You're there to understand them and see beyond whatever's going on.
I would like the whole world to be aware that there are people with neurodivergent conditions. They can thrive, but they need different things than people that aren't neurodivergent.
It's a case of making those small, meaningful adjustments which don't cost anything.
We're saying that there's not one right way. And when we try to enforce one right way, we're excluding a lot of people. That way doesn't fit. I recently drew a graphic of a circle which represented society and a square which represented neurodivergent people. When the circle's too small, neurodivergent people aren't accommodated very well. But as the circle gets larger so that it's more inclusive, the square can easily fit inside the circle. Maybe that's where we used to be in our long ago past. And as society got more rigid and higher expectations, things had to be done one way, one standard way, the squares got excluded.
Hopefully society's changing. We're still a long way away from that yet.
You're in the vanguard of leading us.
Yeah, I'm trying really hard with it.
Just by more and more people being willing to say, dyslexic, I have ADHD, I'm autistic. For more and more people to say that.
I was ashamed I was dyslexic. I didn't tell anybody until I was 40. I didn't want anyone to know. Now it's my strength. It's something which makes me more understanding, makes me think outside the box.
The ones I've talked to, if they learn how to manage it, they're happy to have that condition.
At the same time, you have to teach children how to manage, to understand themselves, how to manage their neurodivergent conditions, not teach them to mask, but teach them to cope and cope better and thrive as a result of that. Had my mum or dad not been as supportive as they were, I wouldn't be in the position I am now. Not all children have that support. It's really important as educators to teach children who are identifying as dyslexic, ADHD, autistic, how to cope with those challenges, how to understand themselves and look at themselves as a strength. I'm a big superhero fan, big Superman fan, love him.
You're a fan?
I'm a massive Superman fan, love superheroes. I say to my children, reading and writing when I was a child was my kryptonite. I had all these strengths and I find ways to shield myself from
some weak points, but you try not to let anyone know what they are so you can stay powerful.
I don't see myself as being a superhero. I just like to turn the metaphor. That's my kryptonite. So what can I do so I don't have issues with it?
Any last thoughts we didn't cover in the interview?
It's a collective mission, whether we are in the UK, in America, in Australia, wherever that might be. It's very much a collective effort working towards a future where all children can thrive within a community which supports them as best as possible. It's looking for those unique strengths to help them thrive and really see themselves as being something great.
Thank you, Chris.
We believe all girls with ADHD should get a fair start in life by getting diagnosed by age 8. Visit us at www.FINDtheADHDgirls.org. Thank you.